Hi, welcome back to our second episode of this one podcast. Really great to be back. Thank you so much for joining us. We are trying to bring next topics, bring interesting conversations, and all that.
Life is all about learning. So, sometimes we learn through mistakes, we learn through other people's experiences. Yeah, so we're just going to be touching on that, especially adulting. They keep saying adulting is hard, adulting is hard. I think you have to get there to understand some things. So we're just going to be touching on some critical, sensitive things that, once we grow up, we start understanding and start seeing things better. Yeah.
Over time, I've gotten to understand that in siblings get to experience their parents differently. So you find that it's not even in regards to any dynamics. Family is very important actually, especially a functional family. It goes a long way. People out here normally have a lot of dysfunctional families. It's an important aspect of society, but at the same time, it gets to it can hold you down, it can put you back. And I've gotten to learn so much from being a boy to where I'm at now.
The first one I'm raised, and the last one so different. I don't know kama ni age juu sasa mzazi hana energy ya like amestart amesema mimi nataka kuba mnezaliwa wa mwisho, but ukiangalia first and last ones are raised very differently. Also I think it could be at the age that the last one alipatwa. Ukipata kama mtoto amezaliwa in the late 30s, mzazi atamchunga like a fragile person, lakini kama alikuzaa quite 20 she's also learning, or that your parents are also learning, so they will try everything. But Sister Drew, they have been doing it for a while or have done it before. They have experience and they're not going to raise the two of you the same. I, for example, am the first one. My sister is 7 years old. There is such a discrepancy between me and even my brother. My brother is 16. The way I'm in the law. I don't know, kama Drew, kukua first born, I have to know everything also because I'm a girl. Lazima nijue kupika, lazima nijue vitu zote. I feel like it's important. Inafaa kukua kila mtu. Mimi nikiwa 16, I used to know, nilikuwa najua kufanya kila kitu. My brother, he knows, but like sioni kama nilifanya kama mimi na mimi kana shida na hiyo. Nikaonyeshwa wako lenient, let me say that. Wako lenient with how they have. Yeah.
I feel like it's some pressure on you.
Well, naturally it would be because I am the firstborn, and by the laws of nature, I am supposed to lead also my siblings. So there's that unspoken way of how I will be raised to set a standard for them. It's not pressure. It's just lazima tu ningefanyishwa, so that even I help my parents to show my siblings that this is how to do it. I do tell them, but like nashinda watu, yani mbona mimi sikutaka kwa first born? No, I don't ask you really to nataka tu kwa kama wao.
Shout out to all fans.
Yeah, but it's a great responsibility. I like it, but it's bittersweet. Let me say that.
Speaking on that, okay, I want to see things on the other side because I'm a parent, right? I think I've learned that parents are human.
They are.
They are. We know that, but getting to a point of understanding that, our parents, especially us as Africans, most of our parents didn't even get the opportunity to even know what mental issues are. Some of them are suffering with mental issues. You might have a parent who's even bipolar and they don't even know, right? You might have a parent who's going through depression, going through anxiety, going through ADHD, going through PTSD. They don't even know,
Yeah.
But we grew up looking up to these people, right? Thinking they know everything, right? Thinking they are the solution to everything. So you might wonder sometimes, why is my parent like this? Like why are they talking to me like this? Like why sometimes we forget like to give our parents some room for grace, right? Because they are also going through a lot of things. You can imagine they didn't have all these things that we have: technology, avenues to express themselves, their emotions. They couldn't even whisper to some of their parents. And now here you come with your bravado and arrogance, talking to me like, to them, they see like, I've provided you with everything, But to us as, siblings or as children, sometimes we forget that, oh, they're human beings. They're also like going through things, they're also discovering themselves. The same way we are discovering ourselves. Most of our parents, especially African parents, right now they're discovering themselves. Like, for example, my mom, okay, I don't want to reveal this, but I'm the last one, right? And our firstborn is 45 years old, right? Our firstborn. Like, some of your parents are like, right? So you can imagine, like, your mom coming to you and apologizing for you for not knowing what she did years ago, or your father for not being the father. They might have been physically present, but most of our fathers are not like in our lives. They're not emotionally involved. They're not like, they don't even understand what this new world, what we're going through, right? So you can imagine the battles that they fight. They can't show us because they're meant to protect, provide. They're African. They have to be strong and everything. But you can imagine when they're by themselves, because all of us make mistakes, right? You have to like look back. Okay, what did I do to my son? What did I tell? What did I tell my daughter? Was that right? But they don't even know the proper avenues for communication. They can't come to you and say, "Yo, Cupid, I'm sorry, man." They don't know how. But we are the ones who understand. So we also have a responsibility of being like, okay, I know there's some parents who are not like, they don't care. There's parents who don't care. But if your parent cares about you, then you know what I'm saying. Like, sometimes I feel like we forget things I've learned, as I've grown up. We forget that these are human beings. Like, minus being our parents, they have their own lives. They have their own battles. The same way we do have our own battles. Like, we're dealing with depression, unemployment. We're dealing with so much. They're also dealing with so much, right? And that has taught me, like, when I'm engaging with my parent, it gives me leeway to be sensitive, to understand that, oh, nobody has it figured out. In as much as I would want my parent to be this way, well, they're not that way.
It's good to extend grace so that you receive it in return. That's a very good point. And I think also at one point, I question things a lot. I think I've shared that with you. I want to understand what is happening. So it got to a point also I was wondering, why are they acting a certain way? The parents are amazing. I love them to death. Like, I really do. But you just, in retrospect, you check and see, this is something that has been going on from their parents, like that.
Generation.
Yes, it has been generational. So you wonder, why are they doing this? So I came to find out just what you said, that they are also trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
They want to unlearn as much as I would want to help them, and just extend grace. And really, since then, it has been really wonderful. I'm not gonna lie. It is hard to have that conversation, especially because of just the African way and how they've been raised, and no proper way of communication. But once you do, most times parents are willing to listen.
I think there are parents who pick on you, and not like in a very bad way. Okay, you take like for example, a lot of black sheeps, it's always the same thing. The people who are supposed to nurture them, make them feel appreciated, end up failing. And that's why we find there might be kids, but there's always a black sheep. They're always so eccentric, they are found weird. But most times the black sheep turn into the goats. And you get to understand that it's not their fault. The things you can tell a kid from a very young age, and it will live with him forever. But ni kitu haizi sahau. Get. So we find that most parents, in as much as we try to practice grace, unajua huwezi call out. Most of the times, like in an African setting, ukianza call out, so you be termed as a rebel. But they've created these things. People who like end up being some type of way. Hawakuanza tu hivyo, hawakuamka tu, and then they just snapped and became like this and like that.
Happened
Over time, it was something gradual. Yeah, something that has been manifesting, it has been growing. And then they find the leeway. Unapata like kuna waseta chuo, they were so happy to be in school.
True.
Yeah, so like in as much as we're supposed to practice grace, appreciate our parents, that's okay. But still, I don't know if maybe there can be a way that you can maybe try to address them without looking disrespectful or sounding disrespectful or trying to throw out of line, If you can get something like that, it can be very much informative because they tend to mistake these errors.
Yeah.
The Gen Z era, is nothing of what they had actually.
Yeah.
So they tend to think that the way they were raised, like back then, you're being taken to school, you're promised if you study and graduate, you'll get a job. And that was for sure. Like most people used to study, get a job, but now you can't come with the same mentality and want to raise me in this era with that mentality. Because currently, everybody's unemployed, but everybody has a certificate. So parents tend to overlook a lot of things. You might find somebody is talented, like your kid. Me, if personally ever get a kid and he shows interest in something different, it doesn't have to be books, that's the system. But if he loves artwork, he is into football, basketball, I'll support that like 150%.
Yeah.
But you find these people, most parents, like most African parents, they'll dim the lights because there's a way they know you're born, you go to school, you graduate, you do this and that, you follow the matrix. So you find the kid with a little support, maybe that talent will have paid as much as whatever he's doing. So in as much as we are trying to be all that, we need to like call it out, because personally we have seen a lot of kids experience a lot of bullshit, and it has never sat right with me. And unfortunately, like, there's nothing we could do. They'll just have to heal, because trauma definitely is a bit sensitive, but with time it gets better. I think when life, with prayer as well, you become a better person in mini, and you also try to be better. Like definitely, if you came from a toxic homestead, you wouldn't want the same for your kids, so you try to be whatever was not meant for you.
A lot of parents, because of the familiarity of what has been, go to school, they don't want to embrace the change. You'll even find people 45, 47 Apple, they generally don't want to know anything about technology, and it's where we're heading. It's the reality, that one not got they just want to stay where it's comfortable. And I learned that the brain is set in a way that it's going to protect you. If you try, that is why we say change is hard. If you want to learn something new, you will have lazima ukue tu really want to, because naturally how you be created, you don't want to do that. You don't want to venture into something new because you don't know how you will react and respond. But if it's something that you know, if this happens, I already know what will happen because someone has done it before. What you've said is important, to have a conversation around it. I think what to say at the start of the conversation was you need respect, because they really take it seriously and come on a disrespect. Have that conversation with them, as hard as it is.
Somebody who told me, gave me like very, I don't know if it's good advice, but the way he put it was in not a good way. Because he aliniambia, Pat, ujue kuna siku moja utaweka wazazi wako chini. What does that mean? Kuna siku, you will start making decisions on your own. You will start doing things on your own, whether they support you or not. It's hard, right? But that's the truth. Kwa sababu in as much as unapewa grace, there's parents who will not understand. These are old generation. They will not understand. They will not understand why you're doing this. They will think you're wasting time, you're wasting your energy, you should be doing this instead of this. But sometimes you gotta be careful when people start projecting their own fears onto you. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean I can't do it. Right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we live in an era, or especially in Africa, where every parent thinks their lives are tied to their children. Nah, man. And I'll tell you that. You might find a kid who's like, let me ask you something. You have a son, right? He loves football. You trained him since 9 years or 7 years, 6 years, right? At 18, he tells you, this was your dream, man. I don't want to do this, man. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this instead. What are you going to do?
Personally, I'd support whatever he wants, because
I know, but that is a very hard conversation. You've invested so much, right? But this is a human being. This is an individual. You can't control them, right? I think that's what some African parents don't understand about their kids. Back to the point of putting your parents down. I think for him, he felt the need to put his parents down because they didn't understand what he wanted to do, his vision or his goals, right? And I just think that learning that as grown people is very important, because sometimes parents cannot misguide you, they cannot mislead you, but they're not always right. They're not always right. even when they're wrong, they want to lead you to the right direction. But sometimes it's not compatible with my vision, with your vision. So it's like growing up, it's very important to understand, is this in line? Whatever it is, like me and my parent, the relationship, all that, is it in line with where I'm headed, or should I make another decision? And I think the big lesson in that is like, don't be afraid of criticism. Because actually a lot of criticism starts in the family. You see the world, when you go na mbio sijui dunia imejaa watu sijui wanakaaje, hiyo familia. Ukitaka kuona watu wa dunia, watu wenye kwa hii dunia, wanaangalia hiyo familia. So you can't be afraid of criticism. Sometimes it's so loud, especially when it's around like people, your relatives and people, you know. But you can't be afraid. I've learned that you're living your own life. So at the end of the day, like the only thing you can do is stand your ground. Yeah, and that comes with understanding that, hey, also wanakoseanga pia. Nona, it got to a point where I don't even call out old people, like my parents, or when they make mistakes, right? Because even if you call them out, it's null and void. It's like you're criticizing me, especially if someone doesn't have like enough, how can I call it? Enough empathy, emotional intelligence to understand where you're coming from. Being misunderstood is very easy. So like you just get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, you are the one who gets to understand people more, right? So that you can understand how to move. Not that you're preventing or protecting yourself from anything, but like, oh, okay, I know this is going to happen. This is going to happen regardless. What are my goals? What are my values? That's what matters.
And about emotional intelligence, Africa as a continent, we're not very heavy on that. White people will genuinely be so much on emotional intelligence. They will be very like parents, they will be there for you emotionally. Not just the things that you need. Unataka kwenda shule, kukula, vango. It is good that they do it, for sure, but there's more to parenting than that, I think, right? Yeah. You have to be there for you emotionally. And now when we grow up is when I became, I think 19, it's when I saw that there's a gap in how we have been raised and the things that we're experiencing. Because most of the things that we go through in our adult life, especially as young adults, you will find that it is a result of how we were brought up. Now, if you take time to understand that, you will separate, because chances of you getting upset are really large. Because why you're my parents, but you have to separate the anger that you feel and choose to do better for yourself. It is hard because it's the things that you've learned how to do your whole life, but it is very imperative to let go of some of the things that you have grown knowing, which are true but are toxic and are not right for you and for the people around you. They manifest a lot in platonic and romantic relationships, and that is something that generally I keep, like I think for my entire life moving forward, I'm going to be preaching about attachment styles. It takes you back to a place of, wow, so this is why I'm able to stay with a man that is beating me. This is why I'm not able to leave this person alone. Kumbe it's because of the patterns that I saw when I was young. Kumbe it's because of what I saw other people around me condoning, right? But sasa, in Africa to mahali, unasema this has to stop. My children cannot see this continuing. I will not allow my life to be the same as the people around me have. So now, back to emotional intelligence. I think because we weren't, or our parents weren't taught about it, and it wasn't even a conversation, doing expected things. So we've also grown up not being able to tend to our emotional needs. And emotions, if everyone feels emotions, it would be unfair to say that men should not cry, men should, for just the whole thing that goes around manhood and crying and revealing emotions. I don't think that was very okay. And we were taught that, because then what are we supposed to do with those emotions? Are they supposed to subdue? It just brings a lot of, I don't want to say resentment, but even later to mambo mingi later in life. So now, because we have technology, we have avenues to learn about emotional intelligence. I think you can learn about emotional intelligence. You don't have to be, you can learn from TikTok, so many social media platforms. It is an encouragement to parents as well as young adults and anyone really who's figuring out life to learn about emotional intelligence, see to it that you try and do better for yourself, even if it wasn't provided at home or wherever you were brought up from. There's a place for you to learn, right?
Those are the unspoken things that people don't want to speak about. There are conversations people shy to talk about that need to be talked about.
True.
So yeah, it goes a long way.
Since we're talking about the family, before we go to that topic, your siblings are your first friends, right? And the friendship that we have with our siblings matters so much. It defines even how we treat people, even outside the family unit. If you guys are not like close with your siblings, that creates so much turmoil in somebody's life. Can you imagine, like, you have a brother or a sister? That is the first person you can confide in. Or you're going through something in life. That is the first person you can actually, excuse me, there are people out here who they tear each other down. Like, even like, okay, I know sibling rivalry is something, it happens at a young age. But when you guys are grown and you're still on that bullshit, you feel me? Like, you're just on steal each other's throats, right? You guys you just can't sit in a room and talk, and you guys are siblings. I mean, that is something that's not usually talked about, but that brings down empires, right? What I'm gonna do, Nini, Amanda, Mamorio, hey, wewe ametakashia zake, yeye ameuza, yeye sijalipa nini, sijui, that is an unspoken like aspect of family that I think, especially like, I'm saying this speaking for my Kikuyu community, right? I think that's the biggest reason the Kikuyu community is suffering. I don't want to be tribalistic or anything, but it's just something I've observed. Kikuyu, I think I'm we all know that's true. And this young right? There's some sense to it, but then again, like, it's like,
wow, that was really interesting, very wholesome, and we got to learn and listen to what everyone had to say. I don't think this will be the end of that conversation, because it's a really long, deep, and really important topic. So we will definitely talk about it more in future. It was really nice to talk about it. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment to all the episodes that we put out. Also, it would be nice to hear from you what your experiences have been. We can be sharing them here. We can also very much learn from them. So if you're able to, please do comment on any of the posts that we will be doing to inform us of your experience. Otherwise, it was an amazing time. Thank you so much for having us. We're looking forward to seeing you same time next week. Bye.